Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the SWUS. Nice NFL Sunday, man, and I needed it. College football Saturday hit me hard. I don't know. I thought I got back on track because I had a winning college football week last week. I didn't because college football Saturday hit me. Sucked, but bounced back strong because I had back-to-back another monster NFL Sunday. Well, it's only a monster if I get the Ravens. I'm currently sitting 5-2, but I have the Ravens money line and the Ravens minus 2.5. So if I get the Ravens here, it's halftime right now when I'm recording this. If I get the Ravens, that'll put me 15-3 in my last two NFL Sundays. Would be 15-3. I will take that. But we got two more games. Titans, Dolphins, Seahawks, Lions, Monday Night Football. Let's go.
Welcome to the SWUS. The SWUS. SWUS. Hey, get the SWUS.
First up, we got Tennessee on the road in Miami. Dolphins are laying 2.5 points at home. Total sitting at 37.5, depending on your sports book. Let's take a look at the pie charts. And according to this data, action's coming in on the Titans. About 60% of the tickets, over 75% of the bets on the Titans. But as I always say, take this data with a grain of salt. So let's get into this matchup. We're not going to spend a ton of time on this one. I don't have a bet on it. It's the injury bowl. Armstead's out. Wynn is still out on the offense. Wynn hasn't played all season, though. But the Dolphins' offensive line is in really bad shape. Keep in mind, the center and left guard from last year's Dolphins team gone. So this was a struggling, thin offensive line to begin with, and to lose Armstead, I mean, not to mention, obviously, Tua is still out. Doesn't even look like Skyler is going to play in this game. It looks like it's going to be Huntley. So another new quarterback here in Miami. It looks like they may have Achane and Mostert, which would be huge, but I don't know how we can expect Miami's offensive line to generate push, honestly. So I really don't expect the run to be there for Miami, even with both their backs back there. The thing is, the Titans defense isn't in good shape either. Jeffrey Simmons most likely not playing in this game. That's the best piece in this Titans defensive front. Cheeto's out at corner. Snead might not even play. I actually think Snead and Hooker are going to play. They've been participating in practice. So in reality, it's just Simmons and Cheeto missing from this Titans defense, but those are still two important pieces. Now on the other side of the ball, we got the Titans offense, and they're healthy. No injuries on the Titans offense, but Will Levis is the quarterback, and honestly, that's the same as an injury. No, I'm just joking. I'm joking. The Titans offense is healthy, and the Dolphins defense isn't in terrible shape. They're missing Kendall Fuller and David Long Jr., most likely not playing. There's just way too many injuries here. If you're looking for my honest prediction on the game, I'd say Miami really struggles to move the ball here. Like I said, that offensive line's in bad shape. The offense has been bad anyway. It wasn't even looking great when Tua was in there. Here are the numbers: 23rd in yards per play, 24th in success rate. I mean, this offense hasn't been good. Tennessee has a good defensive front. Their defense has actually been pretty good this year. They're 6th in yard per play, 7th in success rate. Don't love that Simmons isn't out there, but Tennessee's defensive front seven should dominate the battle against Miami's battered offensive line. So I do like that. And the Dolphins defense has shown us they're vulnerable to the pass. 26 in yards per pass attempt, 24th in success rate, 29th in EPA. So, I mean, the table's set for Will Levis to have himself a good game and for the Titans to go on the road and win this one, but I don't know if I want to put my money on Will Levis, even if I like the matchup for the Titans defense. We've seen favorable matchups for the Titans defense this year. It's not like we haven't seen that. We've seen that a couple times, and Will Levis still managed to lose the football game. So I don't know. I think the Titans win. So at plus 2.5, the move would be the Titans, in my opinion. But as of right now, I don't have any money on that game. What I want to talk about is this one. Seahawks, Lions up next. This one's in Detroit. Lions are laying 4 points at home. Total sitting at 46.5 or 47, depending on your sports book. Take a look at the pie charts, and we're looking pretty split on this one. Tickets, money looking pretty close to 50-50. So pretty split down the middle. This line was 4.5, dropped down to 3.5 for most of the week. Now it's back up at 4. So the line's been bouncing around a little bit. So let's get into this one, and we'll start with the Seahawks, starting off with a perfect 3-0 record. Looking good. Offense is looking okay. I mean, pretty mediocre looking numbers here. 14th in yards per play, 14th in success rate. Passing numbers look good. 10th in yards per attempt, 7th in success rate. It's the run game that hasn't been there for Seattle. And look, maybe that's Kenneth Walker getting injured in week 1, because in week 1, when Kenneth Walker played, they actually were able to run the ball. 33 carries, 146 yards, 4.4 yards per carry. Actually, Kenneth Walker averaged like 5.2 yards per carry in that game. But since then, Kenneth Walker hasn't played, and the Seahawks haven't been able to run the ball. And the result has been numbers like this: 26th in yards per carry, 28th in success rate, 24th in EPA. The run game really hasn't been there. Now, it looks like Kenneth Walker may return. He's officially listed as questionable, and he did participate in a full practice on Saturday, so it looks like Kenneth Walker may play. But are we really expecting the Seahawks run game to show up and see a resurgence of the Seahawks run game against Detroit? I mean, Detroit's got an elite defensive front. They're third in yards per carry allowed, ninth in success rate, third in run defense EPA. Look at the Detroit defensive line metrics here. First in adjusted line yards, second in run defense grade, 13th in yards before contact. Nobody is getting push on the Detroit defensive front. So even if Kenneth Walker is back, not really expecting the Seahawks run game to be there. But let's talk about the passing attack, and that's what Seattle's been doing. I mean, they're 13th in pass frequency, so this is an offense that's been reliant on the pass, and this might be a favorable matchup for Geno Smith. We've seen him play the Lions twice since joining the Seahawks. Both those games were on the road in Detroit. Look at his numbers. 324 passing yards per game in those two games, over 77% completions, 4 touchdowns, no picks, and a passer rating over 123. He's cooked on this Lions defense since joining the Seahawks. Both of those games were in Detroit. This is a Lions defense that runs a lot of man coverage, over 43% man coverage frequency. That's third most in the NFL. Geno Smith, much better numbers throwing the ball against man coverage, 8.45 yards per attempt compared to 7.4 against zone, over a 105 passer rating against man compared to an 88.2 against zone. Now, here's where I'm a little concerned when it comes to the Seahawks offense, or the Seahawks passing offense, I should say. Right tackle Abraham Lucas is still out. He hasn't played all year, but George Fant is also out. He would be the right tackle starting in his place. He got injured in week 1. So, I mean, the Seahawks have been dealing with this the last 2 games. This isn't brand new. But against the Lions and Aiden Hutchinson, don't love that they're going to be starting their third right tackle in this game. That being said, the Lions pass rush has been a little streaky. They're just 23rd in pressure rate, 20th in adjusted sack rate. Now, when Hutchinson's on, as we see, I mean, what do you have, 7 sacks in that one game? When it's on, this pass rush can be very good. It also disappears from time to time, so I don't love that matchup for Seattle, but it's also not a deal breaker. Here are the Seahawks numbers in pass protection, and you can see they're second in the NFL in pressure rate allowed, but PFF has them rated 29th in pass blocking grade. How is that possible? Because Geno Smith is one of those guys that gets the ball out quick. 2.66 seconds before release, 9th fastest amongst quarterbacks. So a quarterback like that who gets the ball out quickly, that's a perfect tool to help neutralize what you think might be a mismatch in terms of pass protection versus pass rush. So I like that for the Seahawks here. Look at Geno Smith's numbers when he's not pressured. They look pretty good. 15th in yards per attempt, 12th in passer rating, first with a 0 turnover-worthy play rate. Not a single turnover-worthy play when given a clean pocket. So I'm sure the Lions pass rush is going to make some plays, but I like the matchup for Seattle's receivers against Detroit's young secondary. I think Geno Smith's going to make some plays in this one. But what about the other side? What about Jared Goff? Well, Lions fans can breathe a sigh of relief because last week he played well. First 2 weeks of the season, 62.7% completions, just 6.3 yards per attempt, 73 passer rating. Last week on the road in Arizona, played well. 78.3%, 8.7, 113. Good game from Goff. They didn't light the scoreboard up. It was like 2013, I think the final score was. But he played well. Here are Detroit's offensive numbers on the year. You can see they've definitely been relying on the run game. Their passing numbers, 20th in yards per pass attempt, 14th in success rate, 22nd in EPA per dropback. Now, one thing we do have to point out here when it comes to Jared Goff is, okay, yes, he played a good game last week, and yes, he deserves credit. It was against Arizona, and it's early in the season, but Arizona's looking like one of the worst pass defenses in the NFL. 31st, 32nd, and 23rd in these 3 metrics. Want to know where the Seahawks are in those 3 categories? First, and second. You know what that looks a lot like? Mike McDonald's Ravens defense of last year. I believe he was first in all 3 of these categories. So Seattle looking like an elite pass defense to start the season, but I say that a little tongue-in-cheek based on who they've played. I mean, they played Jacoby Brissett, the Dolphins without Tua, and Bo Nix in Denver. So they haven't exactly been seeing Hall of Famers in terms of quarterback competition, but they are first in DVOA, which is a schedule-adjusted metric. This number is supposed to adjust based on who you've played and what their strengths and weaknesses are. So they still are first in that, but I mean, this is more a metric you use long-term. It's only been 3 weeks, so I wouldn't read too much into that. The Seahawks pass defense does look great, and they deserve credit for that. Here's the problem. Jared Goff cooked on Seattle in those two games that we were talking about. The same games where Geno Smith cooked on Detroit. Jared Goff went off as well. Over 350 yards per game, 73% completion, 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, passer rating over 122. But this is not the same Seattle defense as we were just talking about. This is Mike Macdonald's Seahawks defense. Want to know what Mike Macdonald did to Jared Goff last year? Well, he went on the road into Baltimore, 33 of 53. He dropped back to pass 53 times, just 283 yards, a pick, 68.4 passer rating, one of his worst games of the season. So Macdonald put Goff in a blender last year. Now, I know you might be thinking, but Kyle, that game was in Baltimore. This one's at home at Ford Field. Goff's the man at home. And yeah, last couple of years, you'd be right. But this year, the only good game we've seen has been on the road. His 2 home games weren't even good. Look at his home splits from last year to this year. I mean, night and day difference. His first 2 home games of the season, he looked pretty terrible here. And in terms of personnel, I really like the matchup between Seattle's secondary and Detroit's wide receivers. You got Reek Woolen, who's fast as all hell. He graded out 100th in speed, 140-yard dash, 99th percentile in burst. He's the perfect corner to cover Jameson Williams and his speed. And also Witherspoon on Amon-Ra St. Brown. The reason so many teams struggle to cover Amon-Ra St. Brown is he's so versatile. I mean, he can line up in the slot, on the outside. You can put him anywhere, and he can be effective. But you could say the same thing about Devin Witherspoon. In fact, I mean, he's obviously one of their best corners, lines up in the slot all the time. Amongst 36 corners last year with 160-plus slot snaps, Witherspoon was in the top 10 of every single major metric. He's elite out of the slot, so he's the perfect corner that can cover Amon-Ra St. Brown wherever he goes. So I like the matchup for Seattle's secondary. Now, when it comes to Jared Goff, if we were having this conversation last year or the year before, we would have to talk about these splits, right? We know the story. I mean, Jared Goff, when given a clean pocket, he'll kill you. One of the best in the league. When you pressure him, he gets flustered. The Lions have one of the best offensive lines in the entire NFL. I mean, they're 4th in pressure rate, 7th in pass blocking grade. Seattle's pass rush is improved. They're 15th in pressure rate, 14th in pass rush grade, 10th in adjusted sack rate, but I still don't expect them to win their battles consistently against the elite Lions offensive line. So that's a positive thing for Jared Goff, right? Well, look at his splits from this year. Jared Goff has looked terrible when given a clean pocket. 24th in yards per attempt, 29th in passer rating, 36th in turnover-worthy play rate. I really don't know why. I don't know if he's just not on the same page as his receivers. Maybe he's off to a slow start in the season. But Jared Goff hasn't been damaging teams for giving him a clean pocket like he was the last 2 years. So I know a lot of people are expecting Jared Goff to just rip this Seattle secondary up. They're looking at the Seahawks schedule, right? And they're like, they haven't played any quarterbacks. Goff at home at Ford Field. They're going to rip him up. I actually don't really like the matchup for Jared Goff. In fact, I think what we need to be talking about is right here. The Lions run game. Look at the bottom part of this graphic. 8th in yards per carry, 1st in success rate, 4th in EPA. They've been one of the most consistent rushing attacks in the NFL so far this year. And Seattle's defense, I mean, it's looking just like the Baltimore Ravens defense from last year. Elite against the pass, but a little bit vulnerable against the run. It's not that Seattle's defensive front has been terrible. I mean, they're 10th in adjusted line yards, 8th in run defense grade, 18th in yards before contact. Yeah, they haven't really played anybody, but it's not like the defensive front has been terrible. But look at the Lions' offensive line when it comes to creating space in the run game. I mean, they're about as good as it gets in the NFL. 2nd in adjusted line yards, 4th in run blocking grade, 5th in yards before contact. And yeah, Ragnow being out hurts. I mean, this is a Lions offensive line that no longer has Jonah Jackson, right? He's gone. So they're a little bit thinner, but they brought in Zietler. So I'm not worried here. The Lions offensive line is going to get pushed here on Seattle, and they're going to be able to run the ball, especially considering the Seahawks have injuries to the defensive front. Leonard Williams has been ruled out. Nwosu is still out. Mafe is ruled out. So not only is Seattle's run defense affected by this, but so is the pass rush. They're missing edge rushers. So yeah, the Lions are going to win this battle. But here's the thing. When it comes to betting this game, I expect Geno Smith to answer. And Jared Goff hasn't shown me enough. He hasn't shown me he can pick apart these defenses from a clean pocket because he should have them. And I think Geno Smith's going to make plays. 4.5 is too many. I actually think Seattle's live in this game. Detroit's passing offense just doesn't look right. I was saying the same thing about the Texans when I took the Jags. You just can't lay these numbers if the offenses are not connecting like that. I'm sure in a few weeks that these offenses will be clicking. The Lions are going to run the ball, sure. I think Geno's going to make plays. I think it's going to be back and forth game, 4.5 too many points. Give me the Seahawks. I bet this. Seattle plus 4.5. Live show, 4 p.m. Eastern time. We'll go through both of these games. I'll bring on some guests. I will do touchdown scores, props, stuff like that. So if you're interested in that, love to see you in the comments. Let's have ourselves a nice Monday night. Let's finish off this NFL week strong. It was a real nice Sunday for me. Hopefully, we finish strong. First down Ravens. Let's go. All right. Everyone, have a good one. Thanks for watching. Later.